Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. You ever get those days where you can't remember your own name? Should you be worried? That's the question. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about HR. We talk about getting a job. We talk about finding jobs. We talk about resumes, job interviews, careers, networking, all that kind of stuff. And we talk about the realities of how the stuff actually plays out, not the theory, but what people actually have to encounter and put up with in the real world. That's what we talk about here. And this is an interactive live stream, so if you see my face, you should see a chat box somewhere nearby. Get in the chat box, ask me questions. What are you wondering about? What are you struggling with? And I will do my best to help you out. It is Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to you, wherever you are in the world. Whatever you're doing, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever your deal is, whatever your bag is, I hope you're having a decent time. And I do know for a fact that a lot of people around the world, even at this time of the year, you got other things on your mind. You got other things you got to take care of. And so if you are between jobs or you're looking for assistance with anything, that's what I'm here for. I had a couple hours today where my family's off doing the Christmas thing. That's cool. I had a couple hours, so I figured I'd do my live streams anyway. So that's why I'm here. And the topic for today is kind of weird. It's not something directly to do with job search, but it is to do with HR. And it's called Performance Review Realities, why they suck and how to navigate them. So we're also going to be talking about that while we're waiting for the questions to roll on in. I see there are 15 people here today. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome, especially considering what day it is. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members. If you are a member of my YouTube channel, thank you. Thank you for the support. Membership has its privileges. And also to my super thanks donors and to my Patreons and everyone else that is supporting what I do here. That's why I do this. Okay, let's get on with this. Performance reviews. If you have had a job and you have had that dreaded review with your manager, usually they require you to do this once a year, where you get called into the office and you have to do a sit-down meeting with your manager, and they go over with you what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you need to work on, that kind of stuff. Do you enjoy this? Do you enjoy doing this? Now, they did a survey. This is what I discovered while I was teaching HR a few years ago. They have done studies on this. They found that pretty much every single person on both sides of the table, whether it's the employees or the managers, everybody universally, first of all, hates doing these. Okay? That's the number one thing. Number two, everybody on both sides of the table, it's something like 90% of all people, all employees and all managers, also believe it's useless. It does no good. That's the other thing. And on top of that, that's just what people think about it. On top of that, they've done studies to determine if it's actually useful. So it's not about what people feel if it's useful or not. It's about if it's actually useful. Does it help? Does it improve performance, improve efficiency? And they found no, it doesn't. So the obvious question is, if that's true, if that's the data that we've gotten, and not me, but people who have PhDs in business, who work at universities, who study these things out in the real world with data, if the data shows that people hate these universally and they do no good, why do we keep doing them? And the answer is, well, we don't really have anything to replace them with. And you can't get rid of them altogether because you need some kind of system that shows that you are actually paying attention to people's performance, and there's a mechanism to do something about it, to coach them, to work with them, to get them to improve if there's a problem, or to detect the problem and fire the employee, essentially, if it can't be fixed. So they need something to do that, and this is the only thing they got. So they do it. Now, I've been on both sides of the table, and I've been doing this kind of stuff for many years, and I agree, it is ridiculous. Most people hate it. Most people think it's useless. Probably one of the reasons why it's useless is because you're required to do them something like once a year, maybe twice a year, but usually still once a year. And in my experience, it's always been tied to your annual pay increase. So like if you have a salary review or something every year, not everybody gets this, but if you do get it, where they give you a little bump up by a couple of % just to keep up with cost of living or something like that, they usually wrap both of those conversations up together. They combine them. And it does have a certain logic, because first you talk about how you're doing, and then you talk about the results of that. Based on that, here's what's going on with your pay, right? So if the results are not good and they got a lot of problems with you, your pay might stay the same. It certainly won't go up. Or if you've outperformed and everybody is delighted with your performance, they'll say, okay, and because of that, we've decided to give you this pay increase or something like that, right? So it's logical that those are combined. Chords of Gratitude says, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, spend time with loved ones. I absolutely agree. That's what you should be doing. But the reality is that not everybody can turn this stuff off and only think of that at this time of year. So that's why I'm doing this. So anyway, that's the reality of this stuff. And it's usually not very effective. One of the basic reasons why it's ineffective, in my experience, is because if someone waits an entire year to talk to you about something, like say they notice that you're doing something wrong, you're not installing those correctly, you know that, right? And they wait 11 months to tell you this, that's idiotic, right? Usually you would want more immediate feedback, right? And that seems to be the thing that everything hinges upon, immediate feedback, right? Let's get into this. Why do performance reviews suck? Here's a couple of reasons. Let me know if these strike any chords with you. First of all, a lot of people feel they are biased and subjective. Okay, so if you've ever experienced having a boss and the boss tells you you're doing a terrible job, and then something happens and you get a new boss, and then they do another performance review and you get told, oh, you're doing a fantastic job, right? It's like totally subjective. Whether you get along with that boss or not is going to be probably the biggest factor involved here. Now, one of the biases that you can easily get is something called recency bias. That's where, like, you might have been doing a great job the entire year, but 2 weeks before the review, you did something and it messed up. It failed. And so you have your performance review, and lo and behold, what's the performance review all about? Your one recent failure, right? Never mind the 11 months out of the year that you did like a fantastic job. That gets forgotten about. It's usually the most recent thing that sticks in the mind of the person doing the evaluation. And so that has a disproportionately large effect on your review. So tell me if you've heard that one before. The bottom line is that if you want people to improve, you need very quick feedback. If someone notices you doing something wrong, they need to tell you immediately. You should be getting that feedback constantly from your boss, good and bad. And on top of that, you need to have a boss who actually knows how to communicate and influence your behavior properly. Not what you usually get, which is people that have never been trained in how to motivate people or how to communicate with people. And so they usually do a terrible job at this, especially in some industries where you have a culture of using negative reinforcement or punishments in order to improve. And that's how they approach everything, punishment, right? You do something wrong, you get punished. And the punishment could even be just like someone gives you a sharp talking to, or they're just blunt and you hate the experience. You know what I mean? It could be a subtle thing, but it makes your life miserable. You know what I mean? That can be the culture in some places. And so that really, really sucks when they do this. Okay. Nobody ever comes to you and says, hey, I got to tell you, most of the time when I check up on you, you're doing a fantastic job. I just want you to know that I've noticed that. And, I hope that you continue doing the quality of work that you've been doing so far, because it is fantastic, right? How often do you get that? Not very much, right? In the places where you get managers that are actually trained in how to do this, and on top of that, they just want to do it, usually you get good results, right? But that's not what we see across the board. Anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety caused by these things. You know that they're coming up, and usually the managers are told you can't just praise people. You have to find points of improvement, and you have to be able to bring them up and tell them that they need to improve in this area and give them a plan to do so, right? So it's coming up. Maybe you don't like your boss, but you're going to get a sit-down meeting with your boss, and maybe you have a boss that doesn't see eye to eye with you, and you just know you're going to be told a bunch of really annoying crap about how you're not good at stuff, and it's going to be out to lunch, right? That's always fun. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety because this thing is coming up. And yeah, just the general state of a lot of managers being terrible at managing people. It is a fallacy that just because you have technical skills and you are good at something, that you should be put in charge of a team of people who do that. Maybe at the very low level, at a supervisory level, that might be okay, possibly, but usually with managers, it doesn't work that way. Okay, it's great to be a technical authority and all, but if you drive all the good employees away because you don't know how to talk to people, you don't know how to communicate, and you don't know how to give feedback in a positive way that people can accept and embrace and are motivated to want to actually fix it the way you want it to be done, you're ineffective. It's just that simple. I don't care how much technical skills you have. You need to be taught this. You need to have an awareness for it. Okay? Now, I'm just going to wrap this up, and then we'll get over to questions. So what can you do about this? Okay? If you're the employee and you're subjected to this horrible, horrible system that they got going, right? That everybody hates, including the managers, they hate having to do these. They got enough stuff to do usually as it is without being told, now you got to do sit-down meetings with all your employees and go over this crap with them, right? They hate it. What can you do if you're an employee and you've got this coming up? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I would recommend that you be proactive. Go and talk to your manager ahead of time, ahead of the performance review. Okay, sometimes quite a bit ahead of it, and get feedback. Say, how am I doing? Is there anything that I'm doing that you would prefer to see done differently? Things like that. You get bonus points for doing that, and you can even get some feedback that helps you change and do things more their way, which they will appreciate. Okay. Seek clarification. If they've given you instructions and you don't know if this is kind of the way they want things done, ask them. Okay. Ask for feedback. That's what I highly recommend. The more proactive at this you do, the easier your performance review will go. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things I want to bring up. Some people have been talking about this stuff out on the web, and they're talking about things called 360-degree reviews. That's where you don't just get your manager giving you feedback, but everyone around you. So coworkers, sometimes subordinates, this kind of stuff. I'm not a big fan of that because at the end of the day, the only person you really need to impress really is your boss. That's the whole point of them being in charge, is that, you report to them. And if they don't like you and they think you're not doing a good job, that's all that matters. You know what I mean? All this second guessing and stuff, it really doesn't work out in reality. And for employees, if you got an idiot boss, you have a couple of simple choices. You either got to stick it out, hoping they'll leave, or you got to try and work with them. Some people can do that. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes not. Or you leave and you go somewhere where you get a boss that appreciates you and can work with you. It's just that simple, And sometimes the third option is the one you got to go with. Just saying. And I speak from experience here. Using technology, that's the other kind of thing that's been put out in discussions about this stuff. I'd say no, you don't need technology for this. You just need people that understand how to interact with other people. That's kind of the core of this. If you have an understanding boss that you get along with, who can communicate to you in a way that you can actually understand and accept, and who's not out to lunch, in my opinion, that's all you need. Doesn't matter how you document this or what you do. That's the thing that everything hinges upon. So that's what I have to say about this. Let me know if you agree with this or you have your own experiences with this stuff. Get in the chat, let me know. Okay. Coming back to the chat. We got the some of the usual suspects here. We got David says, I think some company use this performance review for layoffs. Exactly. That's the other thing. They also use this as a political tool, right? If you want to have someone removed from the company, this is the official mechanism to do it. And the reason why they make this the official mechanism is because if you get rid of somebody the wrong way, you can violate labor laws and employment standards and all this kind of stuff. So the company has a vested interest in making sure that all their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted if you're going to let someone go. And this process is set up to help them do that. So if someone is not doing a great job, you do want to work with them to try and get them to improve. And if it fixes it, great. If it doesn't work, then what you have is you have a record of like, well, we've told you about our concerns. We've given you a program to help you work on it, and we've reviewed your progress, but you're just not responding to it in the way that, we wanted. So that's all documented. We've told you where this process is going, and we've given you the choice, and, this kind of thing. So it gives the company a way of doing that. It also is good for the employee that they don't just come along and fire you and, mysteriously, and you don't understand what the problem is. They actually communicate all this stuff to you and explain everything to you. So in theory, it helps the employee too, but depending if you got idiots in charge, that may not always be the way it works out. But you're absolutely right. Making some excuses for not performing well and then simply letting you go. Yes, this can be used as a political tool. And that was one of the reasons why it's ineffective, because what they do is they have already made their mind up about employees. This person's good, this person's bad. And then they do the performance reviews to correspond, right? So they're not actually doing the performance reviews to determine if this person's good or bad. They've already decided that, and then they just use this as the sort of backup to justify those decisions, which of course is a total perversion of what it's intended for, right? Including moving some people out of the company. If you just don't get along with your boss, maybe they just want you out of there. And some people will use tools like this. They'll misuse tools like this to make that happen. That's well known. That's talked about in academia where they study this stuff, actually. Like, these are known issues and known uses of it. As things that you're, in theory, not supposed to do, but let's face it, people do it. So you're right, David. How do you say this? Ifini says, I have a review coming up mid-February. I also want to request for a pay rise. How can I possibly achieve this? Please, thanks. Okay, here's what I would say. Okay, now I've already sort of talked about what you can do. I said be proactive, seek clarification, okay, ask for feedback. Now, I want to reiterate that. That's pretty much what you got to do, okay? So go to your boss as soon as possible, when it's convenient. If you don't know when, all things being equal, I would say go to them immediately after lunch on a Friday. If you work at a job with like office hours, you're on working days, you're not on some weird shift work or something. But Fridays is the best day of the week because, the weekend is coming. People are in a good mood. And immediately after lunch or like meal or lunch break is the best time because people have had food. They're usually less stressed. They're more relaxed. They're just coming off a break, so they're in a generally better mood. That would be the best time of the week to like approach your boss and say, hey, you got a minute? Okay, and then just speak to them briefly. Don't impose yourself on them. Just say, you got a minute? Can I talk to you for a few minutes? And let them say, sure. And say, okay, you go and you have like a one-on-one conversation and say, listen, how am I doing? Is there something that I'm doing that you would prefer to have it done differently? I'm just following up to make sure that we're good. Do you have any suggestions? If you want to start off with a specific question, say like, listen, regarding this particular task, I've been doing it this way. Is that the way you would prefer it to be done? Or would you like it done some other way? Because I didn't really get a lot of details on what your expectations are. Something like that, right? Now, if you can get actual useful information from this, great. Pick something where you might actually be able to get helpful information back. But even if you can't, the act of doing this serves its own purpose. It shows that you're dedicated. It shows that you care about how good of a job you're doing and that you're trying to satisfy your boss's expectations, okay? Now, if you can do this well ahead of your performance review, like at the beginning of January, you approach them and have this conversation, right? And then, depending on how that goes, it would be perfect if you could leave the conversation by saying, listen, if you have any suggestions at any time about how I should be doing stuff that would help you, just let me know. Something like that. So, let me know. I'm always interested to hear if you have preferences or certain little wants, wills, and needs that I can satisfy. So that would be perfect if you could leave that open at the end. You could communicate that. Okay, and what that should do is that should signal to your boss that you care, you're trying to do your best, you're a dedicated employee, and it should be easy to request changes from you. Sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes bosses don't like to go up to their subordinates and say, you're doing this wrong. I want you to change what you do so it's like this. Because they find that with some people, that's a very awkward conversation. It's stressful for them. They usually get people not responding very well and not taking it very well. And they don't need that any more than you do. So when you proactively go and just communicate this professionally, they think, oh, okay, this person is easy to deal with. If I request changes, it shouldn't be a big problem. It shouldn't be this big stressful thing. Okay, so that would be the most important stuff I think you can do that will help things go smoothly at your performance review. Okay, now just be aware, at performance reviews, usually the way it works is, like I said earlier, bosses are told that it can't be all like peaches and cream. They have to bring up negative things that they want you to work on because you're not doing them as well as they would like. They have to bring up items like that. They can't just say you're doing brilliant, end of meeting. Okay? So they will bring up stuff like that. Expect it. Okay? It's nothing personal. It's just that they are told they have to. Because face it, if you were a boss and you had to do these and you didn't have to say anything negative, this would be a cinch, right? It would be pleasant. It would be easy. But it would be kind of useless, right? Other than making everyone feel good. So they require people to bring up negative stuff. So listen, you're going to be told things you need to improve on. They could be bullshit little things, like that are contrived, but they're going to say it. Expect it. Just smile and nod. Say, no problem. I will work on that. Okay, now the whole pay increase thing, okay, that's kind of a separate discussion, at least in my opinion. As I take a breath. That's a whole other thing. It's independent. Ironically, it's independent of the pay. The only time it wouldn't be would be, you see, like I was saying earlier, if companies combine the pay discussion and the performance review. Usually there's an annual pay review of some kind that occurs with every employee. if for no other reason than to look at the cost of living sometimes, or inflation. They sometimes bump up pay in line with inflation sometimes. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a part of this or not, but if it is, then it's kind of, it almost seems like too late to bring up a request because they've already decided, here's what we're doing, right? What would be good if you're serious about the pay raise? This is a serious thing that you need because you feel that you're underpaid, okay? Meaning that you'd be willing to leave over it. That's what I mean when I say it's serious. I would bring that up proactively before this meeting. So in that in that meeting with your boss one-on-one on a Friday, you say just so you know, I'm kind of hoping that I might get a pay bump this year to be more in line with, what my market value is or something like that. You know what I mean? I would plant that ahead of these meetings. Okay, but that's a whole other topic, like how to get a pay raise and all this kind of stuff. Just so you know, every single employee feels that they're underpaid, just so you know that. And therefore, many, many employees come to a boss saying, I need more money. What usually happens is the boss says, sorry, we don't have anything extra in the budget. And the employee says, I really feel I should be paid more. But then they go away and they stay and they do their job. Right? That's usually how this stuff goes. That's what you're up against. Okay? So if you want to try and force their hand, you got to go and do a lot more than just ask for more money. Just so you know. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. The perfect network engineer. I am Subhajit from India. Merry Christmas, sir. And Merry Christmas to you too, or Happy Holidays, whatever your particular bag is. Thank you. And that goes to everyone. Youssef, the whole point of performance reviews is to ensure employee value bringing to a company. Sometimes it's not direct like a salesman case. Yeah, well, in theory, it's supposed to be the mechanism to ensure that employees have a certain level of performance, right? It shouldn't be a thing where, once you hire them, then they can underperform, their performance can drop off, and we're just sort of fine with that because no one's monitoring, right? In theory, the performance review should be a way of checking up, making sure that everyone is working out okay. And then if there's any course correction required, this is the system to do it. That's what it should be in theory. Often, David pointed out, it's not. It's a political tool that people use to accomplish all kinds of things that they shouldn't be doing. David says, I had a review where my boss, without any feedbacks during the year, just made some ridiculous excuses that I didn't do well, and all the discussions were in vain. He made up his mind ahead of time. Yeah, that's the sign of either a bad boss, or B, there's some agenda going on. They're either trying to move you out of the company, and this was their way of doing that, or your boss is just a complete moron, and they're abusing the system and showing how incompetent they are, and what a bad people manager they are by doing stuff like this. The flip side of this is that, I've been on the other side of the table, and when you're dealing with subordinates, your tone of voice can be found offensive. The precise, tiny little nuance of what you say could be a source of offense. You know what I'm saying? It's very hard to tiptoe through some of this stuff and not stress people out and not give offense. So that does happen. That is a thing, okay? But what you're describing here, if the person literally did what you're describing here, yeah, that's ridiculous. That's why this system fails, like I said in the beginning. It should be a continuous feedback loop. You shouldn't wait 11 months to hear that you're doing something wrong. That's what I said earlier. This is an example of that. If this was such a big deal, why are you first hearing about it now? You know what I mean? Your boss just noticed you're doing a bad job and then said nothing for months? Really? That doesn't sound like a very good boss, right? Now, I'll give you a bit of advice. Don't argue, okay? Because the problem is that when you tell people that like, oh, I think you could improve this, like, like this is good, you're good here, you're good there, but this little thing, you really need to. What happens with a lot of people is that they'll argue you, they'll challenge you on every single point you make. It's like they have a guilt complex. I can't need improvement in any area. I can't be doing a bad job at, something in my life, right? You must clearly be biased against me, like people behave like that. We all behave like this. We're very defensive about these kind of things, and we hate being told that we're wrong or that we're no good or that we need to improve. It's very sensitive, okay? So if you're feeling that, a certain amount of that is a natural human reaction. Be sure that you're not just thinking this way as a knee-jerk response. You see, what the boss might be trying to do, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, what the boss might be trying to do is saying like, listen, you need to really listen to me here, okay? I know you think you're doing a great job. I know you have all kinds of reasons and justifications for why you do a certain thing a certain way. But I'm telling you that we need you to do it this other way. Even if you don't see the logic in it, even if you don't think it's the right thing to do, we need you to do it that way for reasons that of which you are unaware. Okay? We need you to do it this other way. That's what we're trying to tell you. That's what we want you to understand, right? And a lot of times people won't hear that. They'll just hear, you do something bad because I don't understand what you do, but I'm sure it's bad. I'm the idiot here. You're perfect. That's the message they receive. And they walk away thinking, no, I don't have to change. I've learned that my boss is an idiot. That's what I've learned. That's what I've gotten out of this, right? So just make sure you're not falling into that trap, okay? Because that's the kind of flip side of it, right? The thing is, part of growing and learning is that we learn that we don't know it all, even when we think we do. For some people, that can be a real challenge. You think you know it all, but you don't, right? If someone tells you that, most people will never accept that. They will just simply turn it, that what they hear is, you hate me, and you're picking on me for no reason. That's how they interpret the situation. Okay. Now, that being said, a lot of managers are morons, and even more of them don't know how to communicate this properly. So who knows what's really going on? But just try to be as objective as you can. And sometimes the best answer to do what's right for you, what's easiest for you, is to just say yes, sir, and shut the hell up and just, okay. Whether you believe it or not, just don't kick up a fuss about it. So I don't know what happens. I don't know what the situation is, but I'm saying there's multiple sides to it. Just be careful on how you objectively view it. Youssef says, sometimes also people are not on their game as employees. Yeah, true. Some companies have such high expectations. How do you navigate such an environment where scoring employees not so... Yeah, this is why I'm not a fan of all these like scorecards and these metrics and all. Like the fact that you have metrics, that already is a weakness, because that means you're paying attention to certain things but not others. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, like, even if you have metrics, they might have a metric for your technical competence and then a metric for your communication skills. First of all, maybe the manager is a prize idiot. They don't even understand your technical skills, but they'll put a grade for you. They have to put a number. So they put some number that's totally out to lunch. Then there's not even a guarantee that they're even scoring you on that. They might just not like you. So they'll give you a low mark for technical abilities because it's colored by their opinion of you. Or it's more intentional. You know what I mean? It's consciously, they don't like you, so they score you low. There's all kinds of problems with it. The more they get into these rigid methods, the worse it gets, because you can't force this. If someone is just a bad manager or someone is just a bad employee, doing this won't help. It won't magically fix the situation, right? The solution is to train people on how to actually be good communicators, good collaborators. And you just can't do that. No company is going to want to put in the work that's necessary to really do that. So these things are all like quick fixes. It's an attempt at a quick fix. And the reason they bring in metrics is because they don't trust people that they're going to evaluate their employees properly. So here, let us show you how to do this, because we don't trust you. We don't think you can. If we did trust you, we'd leave it up to you. But no, we're going to like dictate to you how you evaluate your own employee, right? That's why these things fail. It's just stupid. They're done by people who don't understand how to do this. And it's a Band-Aid on a problem that they're not willing to address properly. That's just how it goes. The way you do this properly is you hire people who actually know how to manage, and you let them do it. And you're a resource if there's some kind of dispute that people can't resolve. But other than that, you let these people handle their own area. That's how it's done properly. But that assumes you have competent people. Where was I here? Pofcross says, "Merry Christmas, everyone. My moron ex-supervisor told me that my voice was too deep for her liking." That's awesome. So you come to work talking like this, right? That's the solution that everyone can live with. In fact, if you could just maintain like a piercing, shrill falsetto the entire workday, I'd give you a medal. I mean, if that doesn't get you Employee of the Month, I don't know what will. I knew I had to get out of there upon hearing that rude nonsense. Yeah, case in point. Thank you for illustrating, Pofcross. I was just talking about like idiots who don't know how to manage. And here you come with a perfect example. Yeah, your voice was too deep for my liking. You're employing your reasonable dad voice. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. I'm assuming you're a guy. Like, maybe you're female and your voice was too deep for her. I don't know. In which case, I would recommend tattooing like Popeye anchors on your forearms, and maybe then it wouldn't be such a surprise when you open your mouth. I don't know. But listen, Pofcross, you are awesome, by the way, and thank you for being here. And Merry Christmas to you, or Happy Holidays, whatever you're into. I hope you're doing fine, and I appreciate you being here. You're brightening my day by chiming in with some of these great examples. So that's really awesome. Yeah, we've gotten down to the end of the discussion on that. No, I mean, listen, like I said before, if you are tuned into this stuff today of all days, you're here, maybe your mind is focused on this. Maybe that's out of necessity. It can be a stressful time of year. And if you are between jobs, you're looking for the next thing. This time of year, it tends to amplify the way everybody feels. So if you're in a good place, you tend to feel better. If you're in a bad place, you tend to feel worse. And it's artificial. If that's you, just remember, it's artificial. Okay? Things are not as bad as they seem. You're doing fine. And I can tell you, if you're here, you're highly employable and you're awesome. So it's going to work out. You're going to be back on top before you know it. Do as much self-improvement as you can. Get your advice from a variety of sources. And then after you've gotten advice, go out and do stuff. Try stuff. Okay? And you keep doing that, you're going to figure this out. I'm also here. You can ask me questions if that helps. I try to help people out. Yeah, get in the chat. I have no agenda of what to talk about. I've said my piece about the topic of the day, about performance reviews. So if you want to discuss anything of your liking, get in the chat in the next 30 seconds or so. Let me know, and I will be happy to respond. Other than that, if there aren't any more questions, I'll probably wrap this up. So you guys can let me know. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to get away from the whole like family celebration stuff. I'm an introvert, so being around noisy people all day long is not to my liking. So that's why I wanted to do my live streams today. George is here. George says, I've had bosses who know I bring value, but don't know what to do with me. That's interesting. So what value do you bring if they have absolutely no idea how to use you? That would be the first question that forms in my mind. I'm interested in what the answer to that is, George. Maybe you've got technical skills, but perhaps they don't know if you're that great at communicating or collaborating with people. Just trying to guess as to what that would look like. Yeah, it can be one of the really frustrating parts of being an employee, getting, these silly evaluations. It really shows you like just how tuned in your boss is. That's the real thing. As an employee, you might think you got a great relationship with your boss, but then you go to a performance review and the stuff that comes out of the boss's mouth is just idiotic. It's like stuff that doesn't apply to you. It demonstrates a complete misunderstanding of what you do or how you do your work. They talk about you needing to improve in areas that you don't even do. They talk about you having a big problem in a certain area that they've never mentioned before. Things like this. It really is eye-opening sometimes. I've had some very bad performance review stuff. My favorite was when you get a manager that just spouts a bunch of gibberish, flavor of the month management jargon, like that doesn't mean anything, but it seems like it does, like it's just some nice sounding professional words, but they don't actually make any sense. And then you try and get clarification, and then you realize pretty quickly that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So they can't, so it's impossible to clarify it because they didn't understand it themselves. That's my favorite. And then when your pay is tied to that, that's the icing on the cake. So, yeah. So tell me if you've heard that one before. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm probably going to be wrapping this up soon. There are 22 people here. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me today. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I will be back in 2 days on Friday. I'm going to do my Friday live stream, which I believe is another episode of Honest HR Nitrous. So if you do have any questions about job search or anything like that, any aspect of professional life and careers and all this kind of stuff, you can come back, you can talk to me then. In the meantime, as you can see on the screen, I've got several resources for people who want to go deeper. I have this course, my $100 MBA course. So if you're looking to learn business, but you don't want to go back to school and get charged 5 figures to do it and, have to sort of work out an arrangement where you can go back to school and work that into your life, you just want something on the side that you can do on your own terms. It's cheap, it's simple. That's why I created this course. I myself have an MBA. I'm a big believer in people from all walks of life learning business, because business is the study of how to make money. That's what it is. And if you need money, you must live in the world, and if you want to learn to make money or make money more effectively, then that pretty much is universal. I think everyone could benefit knowing that. And if you just have a job, you have a career, you have technical skills, if you tack on the knowledge of how business works, it only helps you become more effective at your job. And you understand your employer more. You understand why they want certain things and don't seem to care too much about others. You can give them what they want. You think more in tune with them. And generally good things happen in your career when you are aware of this stuff. So I recommend it for everybody. I also have a course, my Get Hired course, for if you're specifically looking for a job. It talks about, basically it's all my advice for how to get a job, all in one place, with templates, with processes, like, so it's all in an organized place. How to get a job in the posted job market and how to get a job in the hidden job market. It's all there. So check that out. If you want to really go deep, get that. That can really help you out. There are links to all of these in the description box under this video. And finally, like we were talking about today for this topic, for performance reviews, if you want to get promoted into management, usually the way it works to be a manager and actually be halfway decent at it, you need to tack on a bunch of skills. And a big chunk of those skills are communication skills. So the skills you would need to manage people, right? And communicate with people and collaborate with people and all that kind of stuff. So that is in that course there, my Write Like a Professional course. That's where I put all my knowledge in that to help people who specifically want to get like management jobs, upper management jobs, and executive jobs. That's like all the stuff you need to know to become a contender for doing that kind of work. So if that's you, check those out. Links in the description. Yeah. I see there's been a couple of comments here. I've had bosses, George says, I've had bosses who know I bring value but don't know what to do. I've been a sales manager, application engineer, worked myself up from warehouse, probably smarter than them. Well, if you've got technical skills like in operations, like application engineer, and you've got sales experience, that's pretty damn useful. You got like 2 out of 2, basically. The only third one, the distant third, is finance, accounting, that kind of area, right, to do with money. So if you got those two already, you've got a lot more than most people do, you know. Yeah. So that's all I have for today. You guys are awesome. I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for joining me. I will be back on Friday. Have yourself a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I'll see you soon. Take care.